Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. So this is Shashank and hope you all are doing fine. And I have not posted any videos from a very long time. So today I came up with a very interesting game which happened a couple of days back. Uh, I know many of you might have seen the Meltwater Championship stories going on, right? So there have been some of very interesting games. Even from India, there was Vidit Gujarati. He played some of nice games. Like he was almost about to defeat Magnus Carlsen, but Magnus held it to a draw. Couple of other games. I will try to post it in upcoming videos. Today I picked up one such game. This was between 11 Aronian and world champion Magnus Carlsen. Okay, so the reason I picked up this game is there are few intricate moves here. Okay, so uh, this game shows why Magnus Carlsen is truly a world champion. Okay, so when you see grandmaster level games or super GM level games, so some obvious moves like capturing, exchanging, checks, threats, these moves, of course, they are important, but there are some intricate moves. Uh, for example, at that moment, you will not realize that why he played that. It doesn't seem it seems senseless at that point of time. But later, after a couple of moves, you will realize that okay, that was very much important. If he had not played that, the game would have been like the result would have been the other way, right? So those kind of moves you will see in this game. Okay, and I will point out when that those moves occur. Okay, so here, as I told, like 11 Aronian, he is also one of uh, greatest players. He is world number 3 from Armenia, and Magnus Carlsen, you all know that he is a world champion. Uh, Magnus is playing black here, and they start with Ray Lopez opening. So people who don't know what is Ray Lopez opening can go and check my other video. So I have posted another video in my channel about Ray Lopez opening. So so I will show these moves little bit slowly. Initial first few moves I will play fast because it's a theoretical opening. Okay, so the game starts with e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop d5, a6, bishop a4, knight f6, castles, bishop e7, rook e1, b5, bishop b3, castles. So till here it's standard Ray Lopez opening. Uh, so this is closed variation because d pawns are yet to be played. Now white goes for a4. The idea behind a4 is to exchange this b5 pawn and uh, give an attack on this a8. So it's very important for black to play bishop b7 now. So black goes for bishop b7. So now d3, rook e8, bishop d2. So this move surprised me a little bit because this was not, I don't call it not a good move, but I can call it a okay move because I think better would have been knight b d2 or maybe even bishop g5 was better, I guess. But bishop d2 I didn't like that much. You will get to know soon why. Okay, so after bishop d2, Magnus played a very good move, which is b4. So this b4 moves controls this c3 square, which is very important. So this knight cannot develop to c3, and this bishop also cannot go to c3. Okay, so for now, for the knight to develop, it cannot develop from c3, it cannot develop from e3. It has to come to d2. So for that to happen, this bishop should move away from d2. So that's the reason bishop d2 was not a good move. Okay, so white has to play bishop g5 to make a way for this knight. Sorry, white. Now black plays knight a5. This knight a5 move is very common. Many of you might have seen in Roy Lopez. Everybody they play knight a5. So the reason is to attack this b3 bishop, which is very strongly sitting on this diagonal, and the other reason is to develop this c pawn. Okay, otherwise it will be too late to develop this c pawn. As long as this knight is on c6, this cannot be developed. So that is the reason to play knight a5. But Levin does not want to exchange this bishop because he wants it on this diagonal because it's targeting a very weak pawn, f7 pawn. So he goes back to a2, bishop a2. So h6, bishop h4. These are all standard moves. d6. Now he plays knight b d2. Now, as I said, he develops the c pawn. He goes to c5. So after black played c5, now white exchanged the knight on f6. So can you see the reason why white exchanged this? White took this knight on f6 after black played c5. There is a reason. Okay, this bishop was sitting here from a couple of moves back. It could have taken this knight before itself, but it waited for black to play c5, then it took. The reason is it is eyeing for the square d5, right? Because if black pawn is on c7, it can always play c6 and get rid of this piece from d5, right? So that's the reason when it played c5, now white thought that there is no more pawns can attack on d5, so it can plan to make one of the knights sit here, right? So that's the reason it wants to get rid of this knight which was defending the d5. So after bishop takes f6, knight c4. Knight c4, the idea is you can see, right, black is controlling almost all the dark squares here, right? So all the dark squares are controlled by black. Similarly, all the light squares are controlled by white, right? So apart from dark squares, black is also controlling these two light squares with the knight, right? So white does not want that. It wants to get rid of this knight. So that's why it played knight c4. So Magnus happily exchanges this knight because this knight is not doing much here. So after bishop c4, black plays a5 just to make sure that this pawn is not advanced, right? So black goes for g3, g6. Now kingside pawns development. So after h4, sorry. So after h4, h5, there is saturation on pawn development from king side. So no more pawns can be developed here. Now white goes for its plan to make knight sit here. So it plays knight d2. So this knight on f3, it has to come like this. It has to go to d2, f1, e3 and then d5. It has to maneuver like this. Okay. So it is planning for this thing. So meanwhile, black saw this plan. Black saw this, that white wants to come and sit here. Once knight sits here, it will be very strong. No one can touch that, right? Because black does not want to give bishop for the knight, generally, right? So that's the reason what black played is black played bishop g7, which is a very good because it wants to come to h6. So that if white plays f1 and comes to e3, there is chances of capturing this knight and avoiding this knight from going to d5, right? So that's the reason black played bishop g7. White played knight f1 as it was planning, bishop h6. But now white thought that, okay, if I come to e3, this can capture the knight. So it switched the plan. it had some other plans in mind. So queen f3. Reason is attacking this weak f7 pawn, right? Both the pieces are attacking this f7 pawn. So black has to defend it by playing rook f8. Now knight e3. Now Magnus thought that, okay, initially he thought that once knight e3 is played, it can capture this. Now since this rook is defending the f7 pawn, there is no threat. So he was planning to play f5. So now he thought that, okay, knight can come to d5. So if I control this 7th rank, then I don't have to worry about this knight, because this knight cannot do anything, right? Of course, it is controlling these two squares once it comes to d5, but it cannot do anything much, right? So what it does is, it plays rook a7. This is a very good move. I told you, right, there are some intricate moves in the game. This is one of those, like you will not understand what is the use of rook a7, okay? This is just a simple move, what it does. So, but in couple of moves you will understand why it's very good, right? So black, as per the plan, it goes to d5. So now white achieved its goal. Like, its goal was to make this knight sit here, since from the time it exchanged this knight on f6. So it achieved that now. But by this time, black has already some other plans. Okay, let it come here. So I don't have to worry about that. So black is planning something else. It played king g7. So this is again one of the very intricate moves. So there are two purposes of playing king g7. One is to control this f6 square. So because there are two attacks happening on f6 square, so there is only one defense. So you have to bring one more defense. So king will control the f6 square. That is one reason. Another reason is, as I told you, black is planning for f5, right? So to move f5, so there is a potential threat of discovered check if white moves its knight, right? So that's the reason it cannot play f5 with king on g8. So it has to remove this king first to g7. So now it can easily play f5. So after king g7, white played rook f1. White is also anticipating that black is playing f5. So there might be some threats coming to this weak f2 square. So it is defending this f2 square with rook f1. Black, as per the plan, it goes for f5. E takes f5. Rook takes f5. Obviously, because it wants to give a direct attack on queen. Queen e2. Bishop c6. This is again another good move, because this bishop c6 allows this rook to control entire 7th rank, right? So as long as bishop was on b7, this rook was not doing much, right? Now it is controlling. So now even if later if this queen moves somewhere else, so this knight cannot control these two squares because of this rook, right? That's the reason rook a7 was a very good move, okay? So after bishop c6, white plays rook a e1, right, to double on e5. Black plays queen a8. This is another good move, because white could have also gone to g8 to attack this knight. So there is a double attack on the knight, and but if it goes to g8, like, there is a potential pin here, right? So if knight is moved, then there is a attack on queen. So same goes for white again. This knight has to be defended. Now the only piece which can defend this knight apart from bishop is the queen, right? So, and the only square from where it can defend is the e4 square. Okay, so queen e4 is the only defense for knight, but queen e4 is again bad, because the same story, like, there is a discovered attack on queen if this knight moves, right? So that's the reason, instead of defending this knight, white plans to remove this knight itself from here. So it plays knight e3. So here comes a very brilliant move, the move of this game, you can call it. Normally, like, most of the players they might think this once knight e3 is played, okay, there is attack coming on my rook with check, right? So that's the reason I have to move this rook back, right? So that's the thought comes to almost every one of us, including me, if I was playing. I think so, right? Unless I analyze it deeply, that's the first thing that comes to my mind. So after playing knight e3, it is attacking my rook, obviously, and I have to move this rook back. But this is another reason why people like Magnus are world champion, and why only those super GMs can see these moves. The move is bishop f3. Now you might ask, okay, bishop f3, before it captures the queen, I can capture this rook and give check. So black has to waste one move and then later I can defend this queen. You might think that. But you have to think further to that. What you have to think is, after pawn captures rook, where will you move this queen? There are no squares to move this queen. You have to give up this queen. Right? So, up to this level you have to think. Right? So that's the reason bishop f3 was played. So you cannot take this rook. So queen has only one square, which is queen d2. That's what white played. Now black plays d5, attacking the bishop. Bishop has to go back a2. Still you cannot take this because there is a pin here. Okay, queen is still attacked. There is no space for queen to move yet. It can go only to this square again, but still there is a attack here, right? So now black moved rook back to f8, thinking that okay, white might plan to make space for this queen and move away, and later it can attack my rook. So it moved the rook to f8, and then finally white got a break. It played c3. Now it can happily move this queen to c2, right, where it cannot be attacked. But now it's too late. White has to give its piece now, because black is planning to play d4, attacking the knight. So this knight cannot be moved now because of attack on queen. So white has to give away this knight for sure, right? So white played c takes d4, e takes d4. Now you cannot do anything. White played queen c2. Magnus happily took this knight. D takes e3, f takes e3. Rook c7. These are like normal defending this c5 pawn. Queen c4. Idea is to control this diagonal, but there is nothing much happening here because these two squares are controlled by these two rooks. In fact, only this rook is enough to control these two squares. So as long as this rook is there, nothing is happening here. Now black plays bishop g4 to open up the f5. So white will try to exchange now, because there is a pressure on f7 square here. So after exchange, so white will play d4. So the idea is to advance the pawn, and also this pawn cannot capture because of this discovery. So black will play king h7. The idea is to bring bishop g7. So white is pushing e pawn. So this is the last hope left for white. Here white lost actually in this position, but its last hope is two central pawns are still surviving. It is trying to do something with that. Now bishop g7, rook f1 attacking the queen, but there is no need to defend this queen now because black can play bishop d4 with check. So white has to play king g2, and now black will defend the queen by playing queen to c8. Rook f7 attacking this, but this queen f7 check is of not much use after bishop g7, because there are no more checks now to black king. So it's still uh, like, uh, for example, when you're isolated in a desert area, you will somehow find water to drink, right? Like, until you find something, you will keep on roaming or exploring the place, right? It's like that. So there is still one center pawn left. So white is trying to do something with that. Of course, it's too late. You cannot win with that. So he's still trying to push that pawn. e5. Now black plays queen f5. He wants to exchange the queens now. So after exchanging, black is clearly winning. Even if white doesn't exchange, suppose if plays something queen somewhere else, then there is queen f3 followed by, there is a mating pattern here where white king cannot escape from this mating pattern. So here Levin resigned because it's completely lost. White cannot do anything. So I hope you found this game very interesting. As I told, like, the game is very interesting because of those intricate moves like rook a7, king g7, bishop g7, those things. Okay, so these moves are very, of course, this beautiful bishop f3 move was very nice, which almost turned the game. Okay, so I hope you like the game. If you have any questions, please post it in the comments below. I will try to answer, and we will meet you soon in my next video in some other games, some other interesting games I will try to analyze. And even if you have some games in your mind, you can post it in the comment. I will try to see if that is very interesting. I will try to analyze it and I will post it on this. So we'll meet next time. Till then, see you. Bye.